What's going on, everybody? This is a segment from the Nerdgasm Talk podcast. If you like podcasts, well, why don't you come join us as the crew gets silly and Philly while we sit to talk about the latest in comics, games, movies, and all things pop culture. You guys can listen to our whole show on all the podcasts apps. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you guys get your podcasts from. And make sure you guys also support the channel by subscribing to the Nerd Coalition Studios. And for the gaming needs, make sure you subscribe to Nerd Coalition Level Up. This is the Nerd Coalition. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. And now, feel the Nerd. Back in 2017, I think it was. I want to make sure I get the date right. Back in 2017, National Geographic put out this series called Genius. Yeah. And it was, it was a biographical drama about somebody, in history, and they just told their stories of, I guess, what they classify as genius work, or just, extraordinary people, right? Mm-hmm. Season 1, they talked about Albert Einstein.
Okay.
Season 2, they talked about Pablo Picasso.
Sure, that was interesting.
Yeah, and season 3, they talked about Aretha Franklin.
Okay, yes, I think I remember that.
And all of a sudden, the series just stopped. And nobody, and I wouldn't even pay attention to it that much at all, to be honest with you. Well, then they said recently that in December 2020, they renewed the series for a 4th season.
Okay.
And so because now Disney's owning it now, and then they can put it on Disney Plus, something like that. And so what season 4 was about Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. They called it MLK X. So automatically, I was intrigued by it. I was like, come on now, Martin King and Malcolm X, those are my two heroes right there. I want to see, because how many Martin King movies we get, or how many Malcolm X movies we get, or documentaries we get, but we never get to talk about them together. So I was curious about it. I saw the trailer, and I was just like, because honestly, I was just like, I don't know if they fit though, to be honest with you, because we have Aaron Pierce, or Aaron Pierre, I believe his name is called, aka Mid-Size
Sedan, because that's what I'm gonna be calling him the whole damn review.
Who plays the part of Malcolm X, and Kelvin Harrison Jr., who plays the role of Martin King Jr. And I was like, I've seen his face before. He played B.B. King and Elvis.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he actually has a quite big library, actually, of things that he has played in. Have I seen all the stuff? Like, he was in the trials of Chicago 7. Let's see, Waves, Bolden, Gully. Yeah, he's been in Monsters and Men. Yeah, he's been in a lot. He's in Birth of a Nation, 12 Years a Slave. So I can tell he likes doing this kind of stuff, right? So I was like, well, I'm going to sit there and check it out and watch it and see how I enjoy the series, stuff like that. So I'm going to give you guys my review. I know, Q-Flow, I know you did not probably see this, and I shouldn't assume, but I probably think you probably did not see this. But I'm going to open up to this, because Lady Sketch has seen some, but she has not seen
the whole thing.
So I want to open it up for questions. If y'all have questions, or things that y'all want to say about it, or curious, please feel free to ask them. Overall, I thought the series was good, just not great. I really wanted it to be great, because the way the series runs is we're telling parallel stories with slight overlap. It's almost like, so in a nerd sense, think of it like Batman v Superman, where you got these two parallel heroes that one is in Metropolis and one's in Gotham, but then somehow their lines kind of, some overlap kind of happens, and there's a little bit teasing into when they will finally meet up, or some build up, basically, right? That's what this was like, but just in a more historical context. And they also say at the beginning of the show that they do take liberties of adding certain things for dramatic purposes, okay? that necessarily may not have been true. But now since I know a lot about the history, I don't know everything. I'm still learning. But since I know a good amount of the history, I was like, what they're doing here is actually pretty accurate. And also, some of the things that they're talking about in this series is something that I was not expecting them to talk about, because these are like almost like deep cuts in a way.
Deep cuts of history.
Of basically of what happened to these men. And I for all intents and purposes, really enjoyed following the story. And then when it came into it, following the different characters that came in there, we had Jamie Lawson, who played Betty Shabazz. She played the mayor, the mayor elected in the Batman, the black woman mayor that got shot at the end, and Jeffrey Wright had to go save her. Then we also have I'm gonna have trouble pronouncing this woman's name. So can you please? I'm gonna read it off to you.
Let me just go look up the cast.
Okay.
Are you talking about Coretta?
Yes. Because she's a British actress. Excuse me.
Let's look her up.
Then we have Ron Cephas Jones, who plays Elijah Muhammad. Rest in peace, because he just.
I think that was his last role. I think.
So they 8 episodes, always 8 episodes, and they pretty much told a good cohesive type story. But it was good that throughout the whole story that it was telling, it was building up to the eventual meeting that Malcolm and Martin really had in March of 1964, which did not last long. I want everybody to remember that it wasn't like a party. You know, it didn't last long, but they were building up to. They even start the series like that, and then they go backwards so we can get up to that part. They just had the season finale, and I was like, okay, I figured they was going to do this, and I was kind of disappointed that they did, and I felt as though that.
Oh, I see why. Weruchi Opia?
Yeah, I wouldn't have.
She's about to say she's Nigerian.
Okay, yeah, well, she plays Coretta Scott King. I think she did a pretty good job at it also. The way it ended, I felt as though it was. I don't want to say safe, but it's like I saw this coming, and I felt as though that after I seen the amount of time that was on the season finale, I said it's not going to end the way I personally think it should have ended. Personally, So real quick, the good overall, I think automatically, Kelvin Harrison Jr. does a great job as Martin Luther King. At first, when I first saw the trailer, he did not strike me as Martin Luther King, but he does have the mannerisms. He does have the speech. He does have the talk.
You know what's funny also in this? I'm not trying to start no discourse or anything, but I do often hear people talking about how we have non-black Americans playing black American heroes. Yeah. I didn't know he was English. Yeah. I've never heard him speak outside of the movies. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Honestly, and also asterisks here. Can you play the role? Did you do a good job? You can't convince me that Daniel Kaluuya did not do a good job being Fred Hampton, and Fred Hampton Jr. and his mama was there on the set, so easy on that. But go ahead. Go ahead.
I think Kelvin Harrison did a great job as Martin King. I picked out that the mannerisms. I appreciate the human aspect, because now in these stories we've been telling more of the human sides of these people nowadays, and he really brought that out of the. I knew when he was scared or he was frightened about something, and it's like when that curtain came down and he had the little handshake thing that was going on. I appreciate that bridge of the character. When it comes to mid-size sedan,
he was a sedan.
And I don't know if I should say this for the bad, but okay, my issue with that, with his performance, was he played Malcolm X from like 1960, that 1952 to 1961 era Malcolm X. That's but he played that headstrong Malcolm X throughout the whole thing. And whereas, and even still with that portrayal of Malcolm X, I felt as though that when I was watching him, I was like, this man is like Lex Luthor waiting for Superman to come to the, to LexCorp, because that's all he's walking around slow. He's talking very, very slow.
Brothers and sisters, are you ready?
A being with your abilities could be very useful to me on a, shall we say, global scale.
Very much is a fast talker. Fast, loud, even do some comedy in his stuff. Not want you to laugh, but I'm just letting you know what it is.
It was just funny.
Yeah. This man is talking very, very, like, imagine if anybody's seen, the Justice League series where everybody thought, with the tan, almost black Lex Luthor in the cartoon.
Yeah.
That's what he reminded me of. And I was like, dude, he got a good look, sure, but that's not, and then, don't get me wrong, did he pick up good mannerisms, like the whole Malcolm X taking the glasses off, stress mannerisms? Sure.
I feel like, okay, I was hard on him. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Only because there is just so much out there to work with already. You don't have to take somebody else's portrayal. You can go and just look at footage of Malcolm X.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, I think before I said flat, and I don't think that's the right word. I think it seemed more one-dimensional. Is what I personally felt. It did not feel like he gave us a well-rounded portrayal of Malcolm X. And so it felt unbalanced because that's not what we were getting on the Martin Luther King side.
I agree with you on that one. Definitely agree with you on that one. When it came to Coretta and Betty, I thought they did good. One thing I did like also, this series put emphasis on how important they were in their roles to their husband. Yeah. And all the stress they had to deal with, and how they would challenge their husbands, which is not seen enough, because they even had episode 4 was dedicated just to them, and it was talking about, because there was a parallel time when King wasn't around and Malcolm wasn't around, so you just had them to focus on, and they touched on that. And not a lot of documentary series or movies do that. They are side characters. They are in the back, and these are real women. These are real human beings that really help and challenge, and a lot of times keep up their husbands' parts of the movement when they weren't there. So them taking time to illustrate that, and them taking time to, even, like I said, episode 4 is dedicated to them, but even in the other episodes, for them to do that, I feel as though that it just made it that much more relatable to me. Not saying I'm a woman deal with that, but just just the human aspect of dealing with that. And there's this new book I'm reading called King of Life. It's the new Martin Luther King biography that just came out. That's by Jonathan Ng. And it's a really thick book, but if y'all guys got a chance to go read that, it's really good. And it seems like the stuff that I'm reading about, they had put in the series almost as if this was like a research tool for them to do that. Of course, they put stuff from autobiography, Malcolm X, and a lot of other things, and they do have their research of where they get certain things from in the show. So once again, like I was saying before, when I seen things in this episode or in this series that was like really, really, like I didn't even put them in there, I appreciate that, to the point where now y'all building up something. Now my expectations is getting low too. It's getting high. So I kind of want y'all to like nail this finish in a way. Now, in my opinion, they didn't do that.
They did not stick the landing.
Not in my personal opinion. I felt as though that the ending was rushed, and I felt as though that it was almost, I don't want to say anticlimactic, because you already know what happens, right? But I was telling you about this earlier. Me personally, now for those who don't really want to listen to this, okay, boy, I'm about to put the history hat on.
Okay.
And the thing is, episode the season finale for the 46 minutes, it just goes into like, okay, Malcolm is getting threats. He grows a goatee. He goes to the ballroom. He gets shot. That's the end of Malcolm's story. Then we go back to King. It jumps a year later.
He grows a goatee. It's crazy.
Seriously, yeah. Martin writes a telegram to Bay Shabazz, and now we're a year later, and we are going into talk about Vietnam. Then we're going into Memphis, and then Martin is shot. Martin's story's over, and then we go to 1972, where both the wives meet for the first time at the Black National Political Convention that they had in Gary, Indiana, and that's how the series ends. I'm fine with that immediate ending. That's how I thought it was going to end in the first place.
With the two of them meeting each other, makes sense.
But the whole reason this is called MLKX was the basis. Did they even have a play called The Meeting that's based on this?
Yep.
That I felt as though for the build up that the series gives, it don't stick the landing. It was. I mean, I understand the meeting was quick, but y'all made it to the point where it
seemed inconsequential.
There you go. That's a good word to put it.
I don't know, because I did see that part, and I thought I had missed something.
Yeah.
I was like, did I walk out the room and we missed it? No. That was the thing about this series, I guess, because they didn't want to put emphasis on the obvious parts of a story. But I just find it so odd to run these to run their lives parallel and never have a time where they actually meet each other. Like, you see them meet each other, not it's a newspaper.
Yeah, I mean, we do get to see of them actually physically meeting each other.
But it's like, I feel like from that point on, is when I was just like, okay, all right, where we going? And then I don't know if that's when it started to feel rushed. But I don't know, just so happened to come in on the last episode where they are at the part where they're getting killed.
Yeah.
And then it's just not, I'm not saying you have to show it, but I feel like it could have been done better.
I don't think you have to show it. Here's why I was saying, because I think the series should have ended. Well, not ended. You can't do everything in an 8-episode series. There's a lot of life that goes on there. And in parts of the series, like when we get to episode 3, they already talked about, okay, hey, we are 26 days to the boycott. They gave us a little backstory of what the boycott was. Talked about they even illustrate the women that were arrested before Rosa Parks.
Oh, did they give Lil Claudette Colvin her
definitely
spotlight?
Did.
Good for her.
They definitely did. That's what I'm saying. The series was doing things that I didn't expect the series to do.
I appreciate that, because y'all don't be talking about Lil Claudette Colvin. I mean, she's a grown lady now, but back then, she was a teenager.
But they talk about that. Now we're into the boycott, or even when it comes to episode 4, which is the mid-season finale, where it's like, okay, we're letting y'all know that we're going to skip Birmingham and we're going to go right into the preparation for the March on Washington. But you illustrated that. Me personally, I'm like, this whole thing needs to center around 1964. This is that year, that from March 64 to February of 65. That's when they really overlapping here. And the way that y'all illustrated in the show, when Malcolm X seen that Martin Luther King was on the Time magazine after he proposed to Betty, and this Negro leader is getting a lot of publicity, helps inspire him to go to Mike Wallace and do the Hate That Hate Produced, which is to get the Nation of Islam out there. So he can be, so their message can be more publicized and get more black people in there. And then when Martin is sitting there watching on TV the premiere of when the Hate That Hate Produced, and then Malcolm X calls him Uncle Tom, and then it inspires him to go on this protest in Atlanta that he was already didn't want to go on, which it shows they forced him. That's how that was the build up. In 1964, they did meet. But what a lot of people don't know is Malcolm always been trying to debate Martin. Martin turned him down. Martin, like, no, we're not doing this. Malcolm X, it's not like Malcolm X is nation. It's like Malcolm X has debated James Baldwin and Wyatt T. Walker and Byron Rustin and James Farmer, all these people that have been associated with Martin Luther King. So it ain't like he's just so on the outside, he don't know what the hell's going on. That's not what it is. When the passage of the Civil Rights Bill was happening and Martin Luther King was doing a press conference there with all them senators up in the room, in the back of the rope, there's footage of this. Malcolm X is sitting back there, listening in on his press conference, as in, I'm coming to you. Which I was hoping, after everything he was talking about in the episodes leading up there, I was hoping that they was going to show that. Because a lot of people don't even know about that. The way it's illustrated is just like, hey, Malcolm's walking down the hallway, here come King. Oh, hey, you was here, bro? What's happening? You know what I'm
trying to get like you.
You know what I'm saying? You know, let's shake hands. All right, we make t-shirts. All right, bro, I'll holler at you later.
Now we make t-shirts.
That's what it's been publicized as.
Yeah.
And it's not even that this thing was like, yo, bro, I'm coming to see you. Or, you know, and you know, they like I said, the meeting only lasts about 90 seconds, but the build up to that. Not only that, that kind of transforms it. Then one thing I was hoping, like, okay, stay in 64 because important events happen to both of them. King gets a Nobel Peace Prize. Malcolm goes to Mecca.
Yeah, they only just like they swept by that.
Yeah,
it was like he picked up the brochure about him taking the Hajj.
Yeah.
To Mecca, and then we talk about. Then we get Lyndon B. Johnson talking about how he went from being a Nobel Peace Prize winner to the most hated man in America, and it's like we really didn't dig into.
That's what I'm saying.
Some very important pivotal points in their life.
Transformation points. That's why I felt as though, like, okay, now since after the Nobel Peace Prize, after his trip to Mecca, now come 1965, Martin does a campaign that says we're gonna go for voting rights. Okay, down in Selma. Martin goes and leads protests. He gets jailed. Now where they felt as though that they cut the head off the voting rights movement. So what does Malcolm do? He says, I'm going to go down to Selma.
I'm sorry, that's wild.
Yeah, I'm going to go down to Selma. And I'm going to, since their leaders in jail right now, I'm going to just step in here real quick. Not to discredit this man, but to keep y'all motivated. So he goes down there. So that's when y'all get the, house nigga field nigga speech. Sorry. And that's in Selma, Alabama. After that speech, he meets Coretta Scott King for the first time. Where they finally meet each other. There's still overlap there. I like that. Why not put that in there?
Yeah, because they did discuss with their wives how was the meeting? What did y'all talk about?
Yeah.
And they both had good things to say about the other.
Yeah.
And how they were surprised because they didn't expect the other person to be whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of it.
Exactly. And then, unfortunately, 2 weeks later, Malcolm is killed. That right there is where I not fully in the story, but that's why I get the cutoff. Then all them little videos that y'all doing, summing up everything, I would have summed it like, y'all, from 1965 to 65 after the summer campaign, y'all don't have to show Bloody Sunday. Just like, when did I have a speech? They didn't show him having a speech. We've seen it already a lot of times. We can illustrate it a different way. You can just say, from this on, Martin now tried to go up to the north. Malcolm came to the south, so I'm going to go up to the north. We went to Chicago. It didn't work out for him. But I'm just saying, but that's what happened. But you can just give me that in text, and then we come back to 1968. Even if y'all want to just do Vietnam, fine. And we go to 68, and then it explains King getting killed.
Yep.
And now we end off with the wives. I think they was just sitting there trying like, hey, we gotta Martin lived an extra 3 years. We got to try to
fill in this extra 3 years.
Story, but we didn't need to. You could just eat. The most important year that these men had was, and what the whole show was building up to in the first place, was glossed over.
But it was definitely skirt right on by.
Because I was at the end of episode, because it's 8 episodes. At the end of episode 7, I was really, really high. I was like, oh man, we get into some drama here. And episode 8, I was like, what's happening here? We're doing the Selma campaign, and Martin Luther King was a part of Bloody Sunday. So they tried to combine when he got arrested the first time with Bloody Sunday. It didn't work. At least in my opinion. It didn't work. And I was like, yo, Michael came down south. This is a big thing that happened in that year, and we're not talking about it. And it's like, we just got to get to them getting killed, and we just got to get to Betty and Coretta at the end. And I think that cheapens everything. Yeah, at least for what this show is called.
I was not here for the drive-by, and this is in no way trying to be funny, but the drive-by way we discussed them both being assassinated, and then to get to Betty and Coretta. It's what it felt like. That was just a means to an end for them to meet at the end of the series, and I was just like, that's weird. That feels. It feels weird. I was very confused about the meeting. Like, I just, knowing, because you were more of the expert on this part, but knowing that there was times, especially in the year leading up to Malcolm's death, that they were either interacted with each other or were, I don't know, because I don't want to say playing off of each other, but they were on opposite ends of the seesaw here. Like, they were in each other's atmosphere. There we go. It just seems weird. Because why parallel their life, knowing that there is a part where, at the very least, we could get into what happens during the meeting, or right up to the meeting, after the meeting, whatever.
You would dramatize it a little bit, I would say.
Yeah, y'all took liberties with everything else.
Exactly, so I'm saying, so why, that's what the whole thing is building up to. And I'm like, it probably wouldn't have even sat bad in the mouth if they had showed that part where the way Kelvin Harrison played King and how nervous he was, because they showed this man's like, yo, I really don't want to go to this protest. I really don't want to do this sit-in right now. Well, why can't? Because I'm scared. I really don't want to do it.
Because these people are crazy.
I got too much to lose. And it wasn't like every time he came, it was like he was also forced to, especially when it came to like the Atlanta sit-ins, and his secretary was sitting there just talking crap right in front of Julian Bond. Could talk about, he would just love, because
that part. I was like, all right, girl.
And he said, yo, sis, let me pull you to the side.
You spicing this a bit too much.
Exactly. And it's just like, yo, I really don't want to do this. So it would have, I would like it to the point where if they show Malcolm just like, hey, yo, man, Mar, you trying to go head to head debate with me right now? You're like, yo, I really don't want to talk to this guy, because he can mess up my whole movement and I can lose my white support. That's basically what it was. And he's just like, okay, but then imagine him doing all that in the show, and then when we get to the point where he's doing the press conference and he look in the back and he's like, damn, I see you, bro. And it's just like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, oh my God, you're building drama and so that really happened in real life. I'm just saying, I'm not saying Martin was in real life scared of Malcolm. No, I'm saying, but
let's not be strategic. Play checkers, play chess, not checkers,
exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But also, I do think it was important to see the Vietnam part where he spoke out against the war.
You're right.
Because listen, if Bernice King not gonna do anything else, she gonna tell y'all to keep her daddy name out y'all mouth.
Yeah.
Because y'all didn't like that man when he died,
at all.
And y'all didn't like the fact that he was becoming more radicalized than you'd like to say he was.
They almost switched roles.
Yes.
It's like they both switched roles at the end, because Michael wasn't even talking about. That was when he talking about human beings. He's like,
can we please just get it together? Everybody is trash, basically.
Yeah.
Everybody trash. Get it together. However,
he softened his image and King got more radical.
Exactly, and he was just like, now, because what are we doing here? Why are y'all doing X, Y, and Z? What does war got to do with
Yeah.
And everybody's like, now, wait a minute. We liked you. Now what? Shut up and play basketball, basically.
Yeah.
But no.
From his friends too, Jackie Robinson, Roy Wilkins.
And they was going out up against him because they didn't want to. I mean, honestly, for the same reason that he didn't want to be out here messing with Malcolm.
Yeah.
You don't want to upset the majority, the people who are going to get you the help that you need. You want to seem like, at the time, a patriot.
Yeah.
No. So, again, I appreciate that from Bernice King. The top of every quarter one of every year, from Martin Luther King Day all the way through Black History Month, I appreciate when she's like, y'all, don't come on here talking about I had a dream with all the kids. Don't be putting Martin Luther King in your email signature.
I do recommend it, especially if you guys, want to know more about Martin Luther King, more about Malcolm X. Read that book I was telling you about, King of Life. You can read all about Malcolm X, but I still recommend check out this series. It may not set the landing because, like I said, for me, like when my son, he wants to see it with me and binge it because he was waiting till everything is done. I'm like, yeah, cool. I have no problem watching this over and over again. But I'm gonna say, for me personally, for the history that I know, that landing could have been stuck a lot better. To everybody else, it could have been like, oh, I'm cool with that. But it all depends.